Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and it's finally that moment you've all been waiting for, or at least, hopefully, some of you have been waiting for, my Fall 2018 Season of Anime watch list. This is everything I'm watching for the Fall 2018 Season of Anime, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it. I bracketed this up for days of the week, and starting us out with Sundays, I'm watching two shows. Those consist of Double Decker, Doug and Kirill, which was something I bypassed initially. It was something somebody brought to my attention after like the first couple of episodes. And I just really fell in love with the kookiness, the humor, the oddity, the absurdity, kind of in a flavor of like a mixture of Cowboy Bebop, Garrow Vanishing Line, and the Mezzo series, Mezzo DSA, in just the vibrant colors, the kooky characterization and everything, and I just really, really loved it after it was brought to my attention. I'm glad I went back and checked it out, and so I'll be sticking with that definitely. Also on Sundays, I'm watching Anima Yell, which is essentially like a cute, sort of funny cheerleading series. It kind of reminds me of Love Live, and I've just really been enjoying that. I just sort of sampled it out of my boredom since there was nothing else that I was going to be watching on Sundays, and it's been enjoyable for the most part. Sort of heartwarming the way the characters are trying to put together a cheerleading squad and everything, and I love how the MC. Keeps unfortunately mispronouncing it as chair squad, and everyone's like, what, she got a chair fetish? What's going on here? And also, not anime related, but on my list for things that I watch on Sundays is Doctor Who Series 11 and the new animated Star Wars series Resistance. I've been enjoying that as well. And so that brings us to Mondays. And Mondays is the day I'm watching the most out of the week, with 6 different series, or at least 6 that I have listed. The first one I have on my list is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, which I tentatively checked out the first episode of, and it just really drew me in. Like, the whole drama of it's kind of isekai where the guy gets killed on the sidewalk, and the drama of that. He's meeting his younger sort of I guess office worker, compatriot, coworker, and he's trying to introduce the main character to his like fiance, and so like a crazy psycho killer just comes out of nowhere, seems to be gunning for the young soon to be newlywed, and the main character gets in the way of that and gets stabbed himself. And then, as the title suggests, he wakes up in a sort of fantasy realm where he is effectively a little slime. And it's turned out to be pretty unique, actually. He's learning so many different skills and applications and things. He can, like, eat people and things, and he eats a dragon. Whom he befriended first, by the way. And eating the dragon is a process through which they're trying to figure out how to free the dragon. It's nonsense. It's completely absurd, but it has been really, really enjoyable. He just befriended a whole community of goblins and has effectively made them all evolve to these, like, where they were these little minuscule goblins, Now they're all human size and buffed out, muscular, or very, very buxom if they're the female goblins, all this stuff. And because he consumed the dragon, he's got all the power of the dragon and everything. And, there's like this pack of wolves that are attacking the goblins because now the power of the dragon has seemingly disappeared. But then, of course, the main character, as a slime, emits that and can transform into different things. He transforms into a wolf and earns the respect of this pack of wolves. So now the wolves and the goblins, who were once adversaries, now they're all together. And it's insane. The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is insane, but it has been really, really enjoyable thus far. I'm also watching on Mondays Golden Kamuy Season 2, where the first couple of episodes debuts us to this character who is basically like Norman Bates meets Leatherface. He skins people and creates like realistic people out of the dead skin of other people he's killed, and he likes to wear the skins as a fetish, and he creates like these monstrosities, and were it not for the tone, the tongue-in-cheek sort of comedic, absurdist tone, it would be completely deplorable. It would be completely hard to watch. But because he is such a whiny little bitch and crazy, they keep topping themselves with oddity. But I'm right back on board. I want to see how everything shapes up with all the skins with the tattoos and leading to the gold and everything. Who's going to get what in the latest episode? All of our sort of adversarial characters have all come together inadvertently, seemingly. And it's kind of just curious to see how are they going to proceed. Are they going to like try to work together toward this effort, or are they going to still be adversarial? Everyone has their own reasons for wanting the gold and things they're going to apply it towards. So it's it's interesting. Coming in third on Mondays that I'm watching is a series called Otona no Buguya-san, or Armor Shop for Ladies and Gentlemen. It's a short subject series, and thus far, I've only seen the first episode. I gather from like my anime list, this may not be something that, unless it's like fan subbed, it may not release in subtitles and everything. Which seems to explain why I've only seen the first episode. It definitely seems fan servicey and that kind of thing. An armor, shop for ladies and gentlemen, but it's usually like the sexy, scantily clad armor you see on the women in such fantasy genre games, RPGs and things. So there is that. There's that sort of sexist humor to a point. But at least the first episode didn't handle it in any offensive way. It was kind of kooky and kind of funny. So just, borderlines my taste with the humor there. But like I say, I've only seen the first episode. No idea if any more of these episodes are going to get subbed. But I have it on my list anyway. And so following that on my list, I have a series called Hashiri Suzukete Yukatate, which translates to I'm Glad I Could Keep Running. This is another short subject series, which is all about an aspiring seiyuu or anime voice actor, and he moves into an apartment where a girl once lived who was also an aspiring voice actor. He finds like a little flash drive with a recorded message on it where she's talking about, I moved out of my home, out of my safety zone into this apartment to chase my dreams. And she ends the message saying, if you found this message, I hope the same goes for you. And of course, so they don't know each other, but the main character, while attending classes and hanging out with his schoolmates during what's supposed to be a karaoke session after the fact, after class, he overhears a girl in another room that seems to have the same voice. And when he runs into her, basically, the sentiments seem to be like she's had a change of heart. Maybe she's been at this for a while and she has failed, time after time. And she's kind of at her boiling point. She's kind of at her breaking point where she's maybe going to call it quits. So, somewhat cliched, maybe somewhat predictably, I'm assuming they're going to pair up and inspire each other. And maybe he will re-inflame that aspiration in her, showing off his example of, coming up behind her and wanting to be able to do the same things she's shooting for herself as a voice actor, her wanting to be a voice actress. The only problem with this, even as a short subject, it's only like 13-minute length episodes, is apparently it's only going to be 4 episodes in length. So I have moderate hopes for it, tentative hopes for it, because it is such a short subject series and only 4 episodes in length. I don't know how deep it's going to go, but coming in next is Kitsune no Koe, which is also known as Voice of Fox. And this is another somewhat short subject series. I don't know what the episode length is going to be, but the episodes themselves are only about 15 minutes in length. Basically telling the story of this cat who is, according to the synopsis, air quotes, too ugly to be a stage performer or an entertainer or something like that. And he looks like a traditional anime character. They just have like a big red blotch on the one side of his face, I guess denoting scars. But as the title suggests, he wears a fox mask. Like that iconography, he is releasing music anonymously online through, I guess, like a YouTube channel kind of framework, where he sings and he performs and he writes and creates his own music. But the clincher is, like, that's basically all the synopsis tells you. The clincher is in watching the first episode, you find out that he is actually doing the singing for this guy who is this pompous asshole stage performer. You know, he's actually an entertainer. He's a pretty boy. He's full of himself and everything like that. And I guess he has a really crap voice. So they need Mask of Fox, you know, the main character, to sing for him. And what makes matters that much more complicated is during the Pretty Boys stage performance, where, you know, our main character sneaks in behind the scenes into the sound room and sings while the guy's on stage. The guy lip syncs to our main character's actual singing. When he goes to leave and he goes back home, he finds like a letter that was dropped there with a picture of him leaving the room, the sound room where they, you know, had him singing. And it says, "I know who you really are," or something like that, potentially endangering everything he's doing anonymously, because contractually he can get into a whole boatload of trouble if anyone finds out that, in fact, he is the one who is singing for this pretty boy. And so it's just endlessly complex. And they jam-packed so much characterization into the first episode. The first episode opening with this main character on the rooftop of a building, seemingly contemplating leaping off of it. And then everything else is kind of, you know, going backward and showing how it all began, how everything, you know, transpired in sort of a prologue fashion or a flashback fashion, leading up to that point where he's on the roof contemplating ending it all. So it's immediately captivating to me because it has so many different layers already in just a first 15-minute episode. And rounding out Mondays, the 6th on my list, which is one that is carrying over, I think is all but completed already, but because the subtitles don't seem to ever get released on time for this thing, I still haven't seen like the last few episodes, however many there are. And that being the series Waka Okame wa Shoga Kosei, or, you know, the Mistress is a grade schooler, the show I've talked about in my last couple of season overview videos, watch lists, and after the fact overviews, where it's the little grade schooler. She's like in training to take over her grandmother's onsen, and there are ghost characters who are her best friends and everything like that. And I still have it on my list, as I say, because I haven't seen its ending yet. You know, I don't know when those episodes are going to be released. So technically, you know, carries over from previous seasons, but whatever. Coming in Tuesdays, I'm only watching one series, and that is Black Clover, which is just continuing to be spectacular. I'm really, really enjoying the character growth of the main character, Asta, which I never would have imagined all the way back, you know, the first 6 episodes where I was covering it in episodic reviews, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore, because they only ever got so far episode to episode, but here we are, you know, it's like, what was it, episode 54 or 55 in the last week, as of the time of this recording. And I'm a dedicated follower of this show. I'm enjoying the characters, the Black Bulls that Asta is surrounded by. They're all fighting for him because the example of his not giving up and giving in, and not taking no for an answer, and trying to just, you know, surpass himself every step of the way whenever they're faced with new adversaries. And it's kind of inspirational in a way. You know, which seems nonsensical to say, but I really enjoy it. Also on my list, I have not anime related, but Lethal Weapon Season 3 I have been watching, even after the controversial recasting and firing of the guy who played Riggs and all that stuff. It's still a passable series. It's still an enjoyable series, with the addition of Sean William Scott. So, you know, I usually, in doing these watch lists, I always talk about everything I'm watching every week, even the non-anime stuff. So there you go. Coming in Wednesdays, it's another day I'm only watching one series, and that is Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. I'm also watching Season 3 of Riverdale on Wednesday nights. But Bunny Girl Senpai, you know, I didn't exactly know what this series was going to be. I checked it out of curiosity, and I've just been absolutely fascinated by it. It's essentially dealing with this syndrome, adolescence syndrome or puberty syndrome, depending on your translation, which has these abnormal, semi-supernatural effects on people, on individuals. And the first sort of arc, which is the first 3 episodes, is revolving around Rascal, the main character's being debuted to a girl running around the library full of people in a bunny girl outfit and being seemingly completely ignored by them all. It's actually not that they are ignoring her, but that she has fallen victim to this syndrome, which is seemingly erasing the awareness of her existence from everyone surrounding her within the school that they both go to. But it's just fascinating how he gets involved with like a science teacher or science student, something like that, and they're talking about like Schrodinger's cat, and you know, how the theory of that is the cat is both alive and dead for you know, as long as you don't open the box because there's poison in the box, and how this is all metaphorically sort of what the problem is with Bunny Girl, Mai. You know, she exists because she has been observed by the main character, but no one else seems to know she exists, and it's like she's being erased from existence. And it comes to a head where they realize sleep. If he goes to sleep, he will probably lose his memory of her, even as interactive as he has been with her through the first couple of episodes. And eventually she catches on to this Mai, the bunny girl herself. And bear in mind, she doesn't wear the bunny girl outfit all throughout. You know, she wears the one time when we first encounter her, then she just wears a normal school uniform. But, I mean, she's the titular bunny girl, one way or the other. But she catches on to the fact that he is trying to keep himself awake for as long as possible. We're going on days that he's like, you know, drinking caffeine and taking pills, and just to try to avoid the risk of forgetting about her and everything. And she intervenes. She makes sure that he does fall asleep. And I won't ruin how exactly it proceeds from there, because it is actually really captivating and really intriguing. And the thing that was surprising to me is there is somewhat of a resolution to this initial problem with the bunny girl being seemingly erased from everyone's awareness. And then it kind of transitions into, well, now we're going to look at another character who is dealing with this adolescent syndrome or puberty syndrome, whatever it is. And it's really compelling. It's really intriguing. I love the characterization. I love the rapport between Rascal, the main character, and Mai, the bunny girl, as they're trying to figure it out and as they're approaching this from a very scientific point of view. But the character depth and how this is affecting her to you know, suddenly be sort of forcibly enwrapped in anonymity to where nobody even remembers that she was a person there, you know, and that kind of thing. Like, it's just really psychologically compelling. It had me on the edge of my seat. So that's Wednesdays. Thursdays, I'm watching one series as well, and that is Banana Fish, which is continuing and continues to be awesome sauce. I'm recording this on a Thursday. I haven't watched the latest episode as of the time of this recording. It had come out, but I wanted to get this video done. But I've been enjoying Banana Fish. I've talked about it a few times before in these kinds of videos. So that brings us to Fridays, where I'm watching 5 series. And the first one I have on my list is the continuing Angels of Death, or the Angels of Death ONA, as it's listed on my anime list. The last 4 episodes of that, so it's only going to be running for another couple weeks. And because I was really kind of disappointed where it ended tentatively the first season, and then they had to, you know, there was some talk about when it comes out on Blu-ray, then we'll get the final 4 episodes, and I thought we'd have to wait till like the end of the year. Luckily, it continued the next week with the final 4 episodes, but they had to list it as a separate thing for some reason, and I'm just really curious to see how in the hell this is going to play out. So I'm still watching it. And so following on from there, I have a series titled Tonare no Kyuket Suki-san, which translates to Ms. Vampire Who Lives in My Neighborhood. This is another one that I just decided to check out of curiosity, and it is somewhat cute and somewhat funny. It does have laugh-out-loud humorous moments, but I find the pacing of it, where some people would say it's calming, it's relaxing, it's soothing, it's slow-paced. I describe it as being mostly boring, but with some funny moments, with some laugh out loud moments. The comic timing, like I thought it was going to be something like Gabrielle Dropout, and it's far from that. I mean, some of the more humorous moments do almost reach Gabrielle Dropout, peaks of hilarity, but it is definitely not that all throughout like Gabrielle Dropout was. But still, it's on my list because I'm watching it. I am enjoying it for the most part. Falling on from there, I have Bloom Into You, which is all right. I'm still not entirely sure I'm down with the story aesthetic. I don't know exactly where it's supposed to go. Is this a romance series? It is. Is it romance and conflict, that kind of thing? Unrequited. The main character seems to be asexual, where she's fearful that she will never experience the doki doki sensation, the heart palpitations of excitement in meeting someone that she believes she's fallen in love with. And she meets a senpai who is like, running for student council president or something like that. And she sort of takes the main character under her wing. And then as she's trying to enlist the main character to help her rally to try to gain votes for student council presidency, she confesses that she is in love with the main character, and even goes so far as to, in one of the first two episodes, kisses her and everything. And she seems to be really enamored and overtaken with the exact antithesis of what the main character cannot experience. She's excited. She's got the heart palpitations. She's seemingly head over heels in love, smitten with the main character. And thus far, the main character cannot seemingly return those feelings and doesn't know why. She's never experienced them. She doesn't think she ever will experience them. So it's interesting. I don't know exactly what to think about it. I'm still trying to formulate that as I watch it. But I am watching it subsequently. And rounding us out on Fridays, the last two I have on my list are Hinomaru Sumo, which is pretty dope. Sort of a shonen, reminds me of like Shokugeki no Soma, with the way the main character is, aspiring to be the greatest sumo wrestler in the world, and the way he has bent the will of even some adversaries and things like that. A wrestler in one case, a sort of gang leader guy in another case, and he's influencing all these different characters from different backgrounds with different interests to come around to sumo and to be intrigued by it and to want to train for it. And so I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And the last one I have on Fridays is Iroduku, The World in Colors, which is the second most intriguing thing that I'm watching thus far this season, after the one I talked about, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, which it's dealing with magic and witchcraft and time travel. The main character, this girl with sort of gray hair, she's from the not too distant future, and her grandmother, sends her back in time through this witchcraft, through this magic, to modern day 2018, when the grandmother was tentatively her age. So she like connects with her family of old, her relatives in that time period. It's supposed to be about her meeting her grandmother as a younger woman, and she's not exactly sure why her granny wanted her to be sent back in time and have these experiences. She tentatively appears in this guy's bedroom, this kid who goes to school, the same school that her grandmother does when she's not traveling, which she currently is as the series begins. The grandmother, who is now her age in 2018, she's like off traveling somewhere. She's soon to be coming back home. But things get really awkward with the main character showing up in this boy's, bedroom, and then sneaking out. Some of his friends or acquaintances from school happen to capture her on like a phone video recording, mobile recording, and everyone thinks, oh, he's sneaking a girl into his room, and he is an aspiring artist, and it turns out she is colorblind. And where that aspect of the title comes in, The World in Colors, is because while she is colorblind, and she has been for a very long time, when she actually meets the boy whose room she, appeared in and snuck out subsequently, when she meets him face to face, the art that he's creating on this like digital pad is the first time she can see colors since a very early age. And so it's really intriguing. The mystery of why her grandmother sent her back to 2018. Is the purpose supposed to be sort of a predestination paradox where Granny sent her back because without her being involved, kind of a la Back to the Future, maybe she wouldn't meet the main character's grandfather in her youth and they wouldn't eventually go on to get married and have kids, and maybe that's the artist. Like, I don't exactly know, but it is really fascinating. The animation is beautiful and meticulous and gorgeous with all the colors and how it flashes back and forth between all of those vibrant colors and then her point of view, which is colorblind. It's all grayscale, you know. And that rounds us off to the final day of the week I have on my list, Saturdays. Coming in with 5 series, I'm watching, first on my list, the continuing Gegege no Kitaro, which is just phenomenal and fantastic. I'm enjoying every drip and minute of it. I've talked about it before in the past. If you don't have any familiarity with it, chances are you haven't watched any of my previous videos because I've talked about it, as I say. But if you have any interest in Japanese mythology, yokai, monsters, that kind of thing, and you want to see the titular character Kitaro beating monster ass and kicking monster ass every week, then I suggest you check it out. And so following on from there, I have on my list Goblin Slayer, which is kind of a tentative listing because I really did not enjoy the first episode. It left a really bad taste in my mouth with the tone of it and the depiction of brutality, murder, rape, and things like that, especially as somebody who has suffered abuse in my life. It was just overly distasteful, the tone with which it depicted that to me. And, you know, I was kind of even that much more put off by some people I was seeing on my anime list who were relishing in that and being like, oh, you're a pussy if you don't like that, and get the hell out of here because there's just going to be more of it, and loving it and everything. That whole sickening attitude and judgmental attitude, I very nearly quit watching it entirely. I very nearly dropped it, but I ended up tuning in to the second episode, trying to not let other people's, you know, disdainful characterization, so to speak, color my view of the series. And I enjoyed the second episode a little bit more, felt more my temperature, felt more my taste, to my taste. And I'm sure I'm setting myself up for failure, that there will be more brutality and more depictions of horrific acts and things like that to come, probably, with my luck. But, you know, like I say, I enjoyed the second episode, which was actually surprising to me with some of the characterization. And so tentatively, I'm going to be watching it. I just don't like the assholes that were all like, you know, banner waving and flag waving and getting up in people's face who were put off by that distastefulness of the first episode and who think it's hilarious that people were rubbed the wrong way by it. It's like, don't be a callous asshole. Just in life, in general, don't be an asshole like that. And so next on my list, I have Sword Art Online Alicization, which is, of course, the latest iteration of SAO. The Sword Art Online franchise, I have a very love-hate relationship with. You know, I really enjoyed and was really compelled by the first half of Season 1, and as it got into the second half, it got a little wonkier, and I didn't enjoy it as much. And, you know, I enjoyed the movie extra edition that followed. My favorite iteration of SAO thus far is the first half of Season 2, SAO2, you know, the Gun Gale Online arc, or GGO arc. It stands to this day as my favorite iteration of it, the second half of which it got a little wonky in places again, but I was reminded recently of the fact that it got heavily emotional, the Mother's Rosario arc and everything. And I do remember that, you know, being somewhat emotional for me as well. And then the movie follow-up to that, Ordinal Scale, was pretty good. I only watched it one time thus far. I have to watch it again because I don't really remember a whole lot of it. And, of course, that leads us to this series following the main characters, the main cast in any case, you know, Kirito, Asuna, and all that kind of stuff. There was the, you know, a season or two back now, the spin-off Sword Art Online alternative Gun Gale Online, which I also enjoyed. Although I felt the end of that series left a lot to be desired. I didn't really find the ending of that resounding. But Alicization thus far has enough intrigue and enough interest and familiarity with the characters and everything for me to be into it and digging it. So I'm going to be watching it. Another recommendation that came my way, which is the fourth on my list for Saturdays, is SSSS Gridman, or just Gridman, which it kind of really reminds me in the animation style of Fooly Cooly or FLCL. And the theming of the series, it's kind of a mecha series, but it's not like a traditional Gundam kind of mecha thing, which I probably wouldn't have gotten into if it had been. It's kind of like Planet With in the previous season, where it's a unique take on the whole mecha thing. It's kind of akin to Ultraman, if you have any familiarity with that, where the main character, he sort of gets transported through a computer screen into a giant mecha whenever these kaiju, these giant monsters, just appear out of nowhere and everything. And for a while, he's the only one who can see the remnants of formerly destroyed kaiju, like off in the distance, rather than looking off into the Japanese mountains. There is a giant, like, Godzilla-looking creature that was destroyed. And actually, with the second episode, you're debuted to this character who's a sort of pseudo-samurai swordsman. This guy can sort of utilize his own powers and mesh with the powers of the main character to become the giant mecha Gridman's sword. So in his human guise, though, he carries like a dozen swords slung on his back. And for how nimble and adept he is at martial arts and sword wielding and everything, how lethal he can be with it, the guy can't get through a doorway worth a day. Like, he constantly forgets he has all these wide swords on his back, and he can't fit through the doorway, so he constantly keeps falling on his ass. And it's just hilarious. It's part of the kooky humor of the series, and I love it. And so, rounding us off with the final listing on not only Saturdays, but for the week on whole, is Release the Spice, which is another one I checked out of curiosity, and it's very much akin to Princess Principal in it's dealing with a bunch of female characters who are essentially like, spies, and they all have supernatural abilities. With the titular spice, they can use a certain spice that enhances their powers and abilities, and it's a very much spy versus spy kind of framework. Also kind of reminds me of Toji no Miko Katana Maidens, or Arya the Scarlet Ammo, because again it's a group of chicks who are powerful, and they have a whole underground layer that would put Batman's Batcave to shame, and there is apparently a traitor in their midst, if we're to believe what the characters are telling us on the antithetical side, the villains of the series. They keep getting secret messages from someone pretending to be a traitor in the midst of the heroes, and you follow around the main character who sort of stumbles onto the main girls by accident, and then is wowed by them, wants to be trained by them, taken an apprenticeship, and the whole second episode is her going through that training to become one of these warrior chicks. And it's just, thus far, there's nothing really to complain about. It's interesting. I can't wait to see how it unfolds, and because it is in the vein of Princess Principal, which I loved, that's why I'm down for it. So, not nearly as much as I've actually watched in the previous couple of seasons. I was pushing 30 series in the last 2 seasons, respectively. And this one is closer to 20, 18 to 20. A few of them are going to be already wrapped in just a couple of weeks' time, because there's only 4 episodes in length for some of them. So it's going to bring it down to 16 or 17, and that's almost half of what I was watching in the previous 2 seasons. And so, once the season wraps and everything like that, I will come back and talk about all of these series in overview, the things that I found I really enjoyed, that were the greats, the highlights of the season, or found to be really, really disappointing, as I have done in the past couple of seasons. And I hope you will stay tuned for that. I may do some intermittent episodic, discussions, whether it's a love-hate scenario for some of these series, depending on my energy, my mood, and what I have to do offline, all the stuff that I'm, dealing with, responsibilities and such like that. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you're watching for the fall 2018 season of anime. If you're watching any of this stuff, if you're watching anything that I am not actually watching, and your thoughts on it, love it, hate it, interest, disinterest, all of that good stuff in the comments below. I'd also like to ask, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see further anime coverage and content in the future, if you would please look at my PayPal contribution link in the description, as well as the comments below, to help, prolong my longevity on YouTube, to keep me afloat in this time of uncertainty with copyright takedowns and channel strikes and demonetizations and everything like that. And you have all kinds of options where you could, you know, request things that you'd like to see me talk about in the future. You could do it as a monthly, you know, contribution thing. You could do a one-time only contribution and things like that. Send me a personal message and all that good stuff. So anything you would consider sending my way would just be awesome sauce and would be very much appreciated. And so yeah, with that, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.